Hey everybody, and welcome to the real United States. Welcome to Annapolis, Maryland. Now, Annapolis is the capital of the state of Maryland to this day, but what a lot of people may not realize is that at one point this was our national capital. During the time of the Third Continental Congress, or the Constitutional Congress, or the Confederation Congress, or whatever it was happened to have been called, or whatever you call it by, it was the Third Continental Congress. This was, in fact, the seat of government. This is where they met. During the period of time where the Constitution was drafted in the 1780s. Now, we often think about the Continental Congress, especially the Second Continental Congress meeting in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. But in fact, the Third Continental Congress, which was after our Revolutionary War, met here in Annapolis. And this is where the Constitutional Convention was called. And our Constitution was eventually ratified, and we moved from a government under the Articles of Confederation to the United States Constitution and became what we now know as the United States of America in its present form. And it was after that period that then the national capital was moved to Washington, D.C., because that's when it was spelled out. So here in the background you see behind me is the Severn River, and on the far side is the United States Naval Academy. Annapolis is the home to the US Naval Academy. This is where we train young people to become naval officers and serve here in the United States Navy. Very prestigious school. It's a good school. I'm not going to be able to get onto the grounds today to show you around the grounds of the United States Naval Academy, but it's a beautiful facility. You can see some big dome structures there and whatnot. It's a huge facility, and it banks up here along the Severn River for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of boating that goes on here, both because of their training and because of recreational purposes. A lot of these young folks do some recreational boating in the warmer weather. Now, Annapolis, one of the oldest cities here in the United States, and we're located essentially at the top of the Chesapeake Bay. In the era that it was founded, in the 1600s and 1700s, I guess, was when it really became a city. 1649, actually, is when Annapolis is technically founded. This would have been ideal for the ship traffic that brought in not only people, but goods and services that came in and also that were exported out. So that's why a lot of these cities are located at the heads of bays here along the eastern seaboard, or the northeastern seaboard, especially in the United States. Now, it's my understanding that in Annapolis, there are more 18th century buildings than in any other city in the United States. So those buildings dated back to the 1700s, around the time of our Revolution and even before the Revolution into our constitutional era, that were built here in Annapolis. More of those are still standing here than in any other city in America. I was surprised to find that out. I would have thought it might have been Williamsburg, Virginia, or Jamestown, or someplace like that. But in fact, this is where the majority of them are. And there's some beautiful old architecture, very, very recognizable Americana red brick, which was easily accessible at the time as a building material. They could, manufacture bricks in mass here from the local red clay, which is very common, especially just down in the state of Virginia. So even if they had to ship them in, very easily produced building material in that era. And we'll try to do a little bit of drive around here and show you some of the architecture. There obviously is a little bit newer stuff, some stuff that I recognize from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. A lot of those buildings still standing, wood column posts on the porches of homes and things. Very lovely architecture here. Driving around, though, quite difficult. And the streets are narrow. Parking is at a premium. And we're driving a full-size pickup, so it makes navigating quite difficult. And there's not a lot of places to park that aren't already taken. So we'll try and show you now some of downtown Annapolis, Maryland, including the State House, where the state capitol is to this day. So we're downtown in what is arguably the heart of Annapolis, Maryland. And the bells you hear behind me are coming from St. Anne's Parish, which is a church that sits on a piece of property by itself, completely encircled by a turnabout, a roundabout, called Church Circle. So if you're looking on a map, you can find essentially where we are. This is right in the center of the old town, the very historic part of Annapolis. And a lot of these buildings probably date certainly from the 18th century. I don't know about from the 17th century. The building I'm standing next to is a pub called the Reynolds Tavern. It was built in 1737. Still in operation, still in good repair, still serving food and drinks to the local populace and the visitors. Very quaint little place, built of that very rustic local brick that I was talking about earlier. And a lot of the buildings here you'll see, even the newer ones are built in that style, but certainly some of these buildings are from that era. So it's a very quaint place, but it's very difficult to get around, in my opinion, because of the narrow streets, a lot of traffic. If you're going to come and visit, I certainly want you to expect there is a couple of parking structures here. The flat rate seems to be about $5 for the day, flat rate, regardless of how long you stay. For parking, there seems to be plenty of parking in those, but you will have to walk maybe a couple of blocks. So not a terribly long walk if you're going to visit. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this short tour of Annapolis, Maryland. And off in the distance behind me, Bev, if you can swing over there just a little bit, you can see the dome of the State House, which is the center of the state government here to this day here in Annapolis, Maryland. So we are definitely in the heart of the capital. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that if you've got questions or comments, you'll leave them in the comment section below. I try to get back to everybody I can, and I do love hearing from you. If you haven't already, we encourage you to pick subscribe and come along for the adventure. We love having everybody with us. And as always, thank you for watching.